No, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, what are you doing?
Oh, for God's sake, should we start again?
You could have-
Hello and welcome to Follow Everton. Today we're going to be talking about the news Everton are signing not two, but three new players. Don't get too excited just yet, but we're going to be talking about them very shortly, and we'll forget the first introduction ever happened. Basil, how are you first and foremost?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thanks for joining me. When you talk about transfers over the past few years, normally when there is a player linked, news a player is close to joining, there's a level of excitement and expectation, and the caliber of names that we've been looking at over the past 2 or 3 years, they've been Champions League players, bigger clubs, arguably, of course, or they've been promising players elsewhere, and we've got a little bit of a surprise now with the fact we're looking more in the David Moyes type era market now with these names that are being linked. So the talk is that Everton have signed Asmir Begovic from Bournemouth on a free transfer, and they're close to signing Demarai, a former Leicester winger, and Andros Townsend from Palace on a free transfer. I mean, it's like you're taking us back to 2010 and David Moyes is manager. And I mean, to be honest, these names are not really going to excite the fans. But you can see why why we're doing this. Bernard's going on a free. He's leaving the club, and he's saving £130,000 a week in wages. And what we're effectively doing is bringing in a couple of cheap wide options who are natural wide options. Bear in mind, Iwobi probably isn't. And saving on the wages. So just quickly go to the comments before you bring you in here. Thanks, John. Andy Mavs is saying not exciting, any of them. And John makes a really good point here as well about talking about where we are in the league. We're a mid-table club, and these are mid-table signings. So, Baz, what do you think? I mean, you thought it was some sort of wind-up last night.
Yeah, I did hear it last night. I was not convinced, and that was when I heard about Townsend. I don't think it's quite as bad the Demarai Gray, but I mean they're all in a similar level of sort of cast-off players from other clubs, and it just shows you how far we have got to in this situation in terms of financial fair play, in terms of the squad and how many players we've got, and we can't shift to players to afford to buy any decent players. It looks like, which is really concerning. You've got to look at the squad we have got, and I just had a quick check. It looks like we've got Bernard who's off. Richarlison, you could argue, plays on the wing, but he's a striker. Keane's not a winger, he's a striker. So if you look through our squad, you only really got Gordon, who's a natural sort of wide player, you would say. Iwobi, you would say, wants to play number 10. So literally, by bringing these in, at least we have an option, but you really want to see like a focal name signing first, and then supplement it with these two for the bench. And right now, it looks like all we're doing is going for these freebies.
I think there is an element, really, of what we touched on there, getting rid of some of the high-paged fringe players, like your Bernard, and bring in fringe players who are, on lower wages, who can have similar impacts, maybe play 15, 20 games a season, come off the bench against, tired legs. And I think there is an element of that with you're getting rid of Bernard, £130,000 a week, and you're bringing in players on £30,000 a week. So you're saving a bit of money, and arguably you're improving the squad. Do I think these players are elite players? Do I think these are Champions League players? Do I think these are even top 6 players? Probably not. But we have to trust Rafa Benitez's judgment, dare I say it, and see how we go. I'm going to go to the comments because I know there's quite a lot of you watching this evening. I hope you're enjoying the weather and having a lovely evening. If you haven't already subscribed, we would be really grateful if you could do so over on YouTube. Search for @FollowEverton. If you're watching on Facebook with us now, please like and you can join us and interact everywhere you're watching this video. So Andy Mabs is saying another Dross season. I don't know whether that's a pun. Another Andros season. Kevin Bracey, hi Kevin. He watches a lot of our videos. He's saying both are better than Bernard and Iwobi, which is sad in itself. Are we skinned again? That's a really good point. And is financial fair play a thing? Do you think the signings indicate there is a limited budget this summer, David?
It's that, or there's an excuse, isn't it? That financial fair play is proving an excuse to stop spending. You've got to look at Iwobi. If you're spending 25 to 35 million on Iwobi, and you can bring in Townsend for free, or even compare him to Gray, let's say for 1.5 million, been reported, you wouldn't put much in terms of ability between them from what I've seen. So at least then you can say they're shite, but they're not like costing you 20 million of shite. They're just shite.
And no transfer fee. I will come on to some positives about these players, by the way. It isn't all doom and gloom. I know we all want big names, and I think there is an element of trying to free up some budget for some big names, and they'll come later down the line.
But you want quality, not quantity at the end of the day, I think. And this is bringing a lot of crap. Basically, increasing the depth of the squad with dead wood. I mean, hopefully they come in. If they come in, they've got a point to prove, and they're natural wide options. We can let Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin stay central and get balls into him, and you never know, it might work.
I think the thing we missed last season was the fact we didn't have a wide player who could cross the ball. We didn't have any options out wide with pace who could dribble, beat a man and cross the ball. And I think when you've got two traditional number 9s in there, you need to have that supply line. I don't necessarily think they're bad signings for a squad. I just think fans are going to get fixated on the caliber of the name without really looking at what they could probably bring. And this is what Holly says. She says that we need to assist Calvert-Lewin more, and Townsend's whip balls could be a good option. He plays off the left. He cuts inside on his right foot, which would help maybe Luca on the left.
Plays off the right. He's played off the right as far as I've seen.
I thought he always cuts onto his right foot.
No, he plays on the right for Palace. They used to play with him on the right in a 4-4-2 with Zaha or Eze on the left.
So he's used to playing in a 4-4-2. He knows about tracking back. He works hard.
He's an experienced pro, isn't he? And, seen he's been doing a lot more sort of media work with TalkSport, so I've listened to some of his comments and stuff, but he knows what, he's got experience in the Premier League, but he's just, you're looking on the wrong side of 30, and he doesn't strike me as someone with blistering pace. Yeah, I think he's quick, but he's not going to be like a...
No. You talk about the TalkSport thing, Dave. Actually, really quite an important point, because I listened to an episode, and I listen to TalkSport quite a lot. I like Jim White and Simon Jordan. I think they're fantastic. Because Simon Jordan makes a lot of comments, but he backs it up with a strong opinion or fact. So he's good. And they had Andros Townsend on there. And the thing with Townsend is, he's probably looking at media work because, his contract at Palace has expired, and he's thinking of backup plans and for the future and whatnot. He was asked about Everton, actually. I don't think the context was to do with the transfer at the time, but he was defending Everton. He was saying something about Everton being a big club and really positive things about them. And I just remember that now. And then I heard it on the radio. He was saying he had an offer from a Northwest-based Premier League team. And you wouldn't have thought that would be Everton. But then when you looked at that and thought, Burnley maybe? Like another Aaron Lennon type player. For me, he's just like another Theo Walcott. He's a bit of a headless chicken. He'll get his head down. He will supply the ball into the box. But, you can't guarantee the quality of that pass is going to be any good. And he's quick and he's a man, and we don't have players who can carry the ball, David. So you've got to say, it's an improvement in that regard.
I think his end product could be better than what we have in terms of wide areas. I don't think he's one who's going to offer like the trickery that we should be looking for in terms of a winger. We're looking for an ideal winger, aren't we? A starting winger who can cross the ball, who can beat a man, who's got pace to get us 20 yards further up the pitch and win a foul. and he probably ticks a couple of those things, but most of them he's not going to be doing. So really, it's not going to excite anyone, is it?
Some people are getting to it a little bit excited just about bringing in some new players. Obviously, for me, it's a very difficult one. I'm trying to be balanced and see both sides. And John, a friend of the channel, he's saying, sorry, that's not the right comment. There's quite a lot coming in about Dumfries being a close to coming in. So, there's going to be cash spent. Maybe they're prioritising the areas where they can do it. Let's be real on this, David. We probably do need a first team right winger and a first team left winger. You don't even say if we did bring one of those in and it was a name player, you'd probably go, we probably could do with a couple of options on the bench, wide options on the bench, because Bernard's going and Iwobi can't do it.
But
these are it, effectively. We hope.
I'm struggling with it because obviously if we brought in a named player, if we brought in a Bailey, a St. Maximum, or somebody of that caliber as a named player now, and then supplemented them with these two signings, I don't think people would complain. But if this remains it, and at the moment we're clearing out Deadwood and bringing in other Deadwood, that it looks apparent that it's Deadwood. But so it's, I've just had enough of the squad, really. I just don't know what's going on.
It's very depressing. I mean, some fans are saying, what have we done to deserve Benitez, Townsend, and Demarai Gray? But we linked with Gray a few times. I'm going to bring Kenny saying a long comment. Kenny watches a lot of our videos as well. He's saying he thought this would happen under Benitez. We've been trying to get rid of the Deadwood, only to bring 3 Deadwood players in, which is what you're saying. And he highlights Begovic's age. He's actually 34, I think. Townsend, championship type Gray, couldn't even get the Leicester team. It looks like we're going back in time to Walter Smith type players, linked with big names as signing championship type. It makes a really good point. And then we're going to be left with the likes of Hellgate, which is actually really quite clever, and Townsend. I mean, thanks, Kenny, for your comment. Give us a thumbs up. You spot on it. You can't really argue with a comment like that. And then you can't really argue with Holly's comment either, where she talks about whipping balls in. So it can go one of two ways. And, you're very much on Kenny's side, aren't you, when you look at this?
We've seen it so many times where we've brought signings in and it's just... And I mean, very often we get excited about a signing and it turns out to disappoint us and becomes part of the Deadwood. And this is the reverse. We're almost bringing in what apparently looks like Deadwood. And we have to judge it once we've seen the player. I think, like Benitez, I think people will get behind the players that are brought in at least in the initial period. And then if they don't perform, they'll be stuck in the pile of Deadwood.
Nev, he's another regular on the channel. Hi, Nev. Give us a thumbs up, and I hope you're enjoying your weekend. He says, "Good business, great, best to come." Bernard and Iwobi not done anything. I mean, you can't argue with that. Iwobi, how many goals and assists have he got in 3 seasons? Nightmare, really. No, he's given us it's not. It's Mark Armstrong. Hi, Mark. Drop us a comment. What do you think on the signings, Mark? Good business, great. He likes the idea of signing Demarai Gray. I mean, is that just because he played for Leicester for a number of years?
I think, he was in their title-winning side, wasn't he? So, he does have some credibility about him, and I think
Was there one game where he hadn't scored in ages and then scored against us or something?
I think he might have scored against us at Goodison. Yeah, but I think he does have a bit of pace about him. He does have a bit of trickery. I'm not sure about his end product or his ability to contribute goals, but he could offer the different side that you're not getting with Townsend. It's a really difficult one. I'd say he's probably the better one at the two because he's 25 and Townsend's 30. So there's a bit more potential for him to be sort of guided by Benitez into the player that he had the potential to be. But there's no there's a reason why he's 1.5 million and coming from the Bundesliga. Doesn't strike you like they're going to be anything much. Otherwise, Leverkusen would be keeping him.
The worry with this is that it doesn't inspire the players we have here, the good players that you want to keep, when they see these names being linked and they're thinking, fucking hell, what are we doing signing these? Mabs, he's talking about Coutinho coming in, and I know there was something on social media about, I don't know whether it was genuine or not, one of the restaurants in Liverpool saying welcome back Coutinho, a new challenge, or I can't remember, but there was something along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised if we brought him in. I mean, he's surplus to requirements at Barcelona, and he's been Brazilian. On a couple of loans. Another Brazilian, like for Bernard. Do you think Coutinho would be an option?
Well, he's certainly not like for like, is he? He's a class above Bernard, but he's had a long-term injury, hasn't he? As far as I'm aware, he was playing for Barcelona up until he got an injury. I don't know, around New Year sort of time, and then he's basically not played since. So we don't know whether they want to keep him, but as from what I'm hearing, they need the money and they want to get rid. So he's being linked with us. He's also in the running to go back to the Shite and for Wolves, I think I was looking at. So there's definitely interest here, and I think if he comes in, does that strike the end for James then?
No, the 4-2-3-1, he could play on the left.
I think you've just frozen
out. People watching, and we've got an Everton women's player.
Oh God, Ryan, please, man.
Here's an Everton women's player. The world's biggest Evertonian in the background. Jasmine, turn the tap off.
I need water.
What do you think of the signing of Andros Townsend? Never heard of him, and that says it all, really. When you're signing players that someone walking around in a full Everton kit just hasn't heard of. It's we're going to be struggling to appeal to the casual fan with these players, and the hardcore fan. We're live. Unless you've got something relevant to say about the news, then you're disturbing the video, and we have a lot of people watching.
Is Richarlison leaving?
No. Mabsy's saying hopefully he can get rid of James and get someone in. Why do fans want to see the back of
I don't know what's going on, because we're going to get rid of James. We get rid of Richarlison's probably wanting to move on. We're going to be left with Townsend and Demarai Gray on the wings. Moise Keane.
I don't agree with you there, Andy. You're talking about a lot of players. She says she wants to see James's backside and not the back of James. Let's be real here. We're doing a lot of marketing with James Rodriguez in it, and showing a lot of stuff on social media. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think they're actually going to offer him a new contract, which would be what I'd like to see as a Blue. I mean, what do you think?
I'd like to at least see him this year to see if he can just remain a little bit less injury affected, to see him at Goodison with a full crowd behind him. He doesn't seem to be dissatisfied, disinterested in training. So let's just bear with it, I think, and see if we can embed him into the team somehow.
He seems happy. We will talk about Begovic. I just want to make sure I've gone on to these comments, and then I'm going to look statistically at the 3 signings coming in. Kenny's saying he'd like to promote the youth from the under-23, like Broadhead. Bear in mind, Nathan Broadhead, I think he is actually 23. And the situation with Thierry Small, he's apparently not returned to training. He's trying to engineer a move away. He's a 16-year-old left-back. And talking about João Virginia getting a chance, I think he will go on loan if we get in Begovic, because I actually think we'll go and sign another goalkeeper as well. I think that's the plan. Even though Begovic, we'll talk about in a moment, he was one of the best keepers in the Championship last season. What do you think about the idea of promoting youth, David? Do you think we should be looking more to give the likes of Gordon a chance? Or do you think signing like Townsend blocks his path?
I think Gordon definitely does deserve some sort of a chance this year, but it is a worry when you're signing 2. This is why I'm saying about this marquee signing. If you've already signed Townsend and Gray and you've got Gordon, how many more wingers are you going to sign this summer? Are we going to sign another one who we deem to be an exciting first team starter? It's very positive.
Kevin's also watches a lot of our videos. Hi, Kevin. Give us a thumbs up if you're still watching. He says the problem is we have no youth coming through. I mean, so Kenny's saying obviously give Nathan Broadhead a chance. And Kevin's going in and saying, actually these young players aren't good enough and Unsworth is doing nothing. And, I've spoken to a lot of people on Twitter about this and concerned that we're not bringing anyone through and that we are actually bringing someone maybe like Thierry Small through and he's trying to get away. So what does that say about the pathway through and what's going on there? We don't have the options. We should be able to produce players of the level of Andros, Townsend and Demarai Gray, but we're not. Just looking if there's anything else. Loads of players scored against Everton when they haven't scored in about 3 years. Yeah, I think that's talking about Demarai Gray. John's saying about Clement Longley. Clement Longley. How do you pronounce it, do you reckon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Longley?
You said it. Yeah, I don't know what to say about him really. I mean, I don't watch Barcelona enough to see. I know he doesn't really start for them, and he didn't have the best end to the season, but he did go to France with France to the Euros, so he can't be a bad player. But it doesn't seem to be one that's really on the top of the rumours at the moment. It seems to have died down. So I'm not quite sure that one's going to happen. Seems to be a few on the surface, doesn't it? Like a
Demarai. David, that was today. I saw that on Twitter today. The Clement Longley.
Yeah, but I've heard Demarai as well from Juventus. There just seem to be whispers rather than anything at the stage.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of fan negative, reactions to all the names he's been linked with. I'm going to be honest. When I read about this guy coming potentially from Barcelona on loan, there was a lot of people going, "He's awful. He's terrible. We don't need him."
I think Dumfries is one that people are responding to, with a bit of optimism. So you can't say all of them have been negative.
Feeling like April Fool's Day if only the likes of Norwich must be laughing at us when they sign Gilmore. With financial fair play, we have to get rid of these deadwood players off the books, and Richarlison's not leaving. So thanks for the comments. Keep them coming. Really good. Really enjoying getting everyone involved. Townsend then. Let's have a look at sticks for Andros Townsend. So it's on Sky Sports. He's coming as a free transfer, and Paul Joyce confirmed. Although some sources were saying last night that it was a load of rubbish. It's obviously very difficult to know what's going on. Oh God, he's played 168 Premier League appearances. How many goals in the Premier League in 168 games for Palace?
16.
This is
16.
13 goals. He's a former England international.
What about assists?
For Tottenham Hotspur, Yeovil, Leyton Orient, Milton Keynes, Ipswich, Watford, Millwall, Leeds, Birmingham, Queen's Park. He's a journeyman. He played for Newcastle. I don't get the Rafa thing. I mean, the Rafa, he's played for 13 times under Rafa Benitez at Newcastle. It doesn't make much sense to me. I don't see why he would have built that much of a connection maybe with Rafa. He just sees him as a free transfer. I mean, his record for goals is really poor. One last season, one the season before. To me, 16 goals in 185 games and 42 and 400 career total is really quite poor for a wide forward.
They're always like speculative efforts that go in from 30 yards against Man City as well.
He's just turned 30 as well. He's not a young player that's going to improve. He's just, let's just hope he's just a squad option. As you say, cuts inside. He's played for England. He's experienced. He is a journeyman, and he's probably on modest wages. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
I think maybe it just looks like Benitez is thinking we haven't got the money there until we get players out. We haven't got the squad space there to bring in like a class winger, and he's thinking, well, we can get him for nothing. Let's bring him in. At least we'll have something. And then we can build from that. But for a lot of people, this will just seem like adding more deadwood to a very dead team.
Demarai Gray, in contrast, he's 5 years younger. He's a 25-year-old player. He's currently at Bayer Leverkusen. 10 appearances with love this comment just come through. 10 appearances last season, so he hasn't played an awful lot, and just the one goal. And again, I look at his goal statistics. It's really poor. 169 appearances for Leicester in all competitions and just 13 goals. I mean, it's really quite underwhelming, really quite poor. I'm struggling when I look at those numbers to get motivated. If they're coming in to play very strictly on the wing with two strikers, then I don't think we're going to be as reliant on them for goals. And I think their aim is to supply the two strikers. But if we're playing a 4-3-3 and you need your wingers to contribute offensively in terms of scoring goals, you know, you can't count on these players. They're going to chip in with 1 or 2 goals a season, which is just pathetic. I almost don't know what to say.
You just wonder what we're going to do, right? Because if we play 4-2-3-1, say, and James does stay, and he's in there and Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are on, you can have one of those players. So you can have one between Iwobi, Townsend, and Demarai Gray. So you've got 3 awful looking options with no end product.
Become a bit of a joke, embarrassment. Begovic, then. I mean, this is for me. This is the one signing I can actually safely say I think he is a decent player. He's played for Stoke for a number of years. He's a rock solid goalkeeper for me. And he went to Chelsea, and I don't think he was first choice. He only made 19 appearances in the 2 seasons he was there before going to Bournemouth. And at Bournemouth, he was a seasoned pro. Over 100 Premier League appearances. So you're getting an experienced goalkeeper. He's 34. He's just turned 34. So he'll probably play for a few more years. And he'll be happy to be back up. And he will be a reliable option. What are you trying to... You're just trying to sit next to me and watch. He's an established goalkeeper. You know, he's played a lot. He's got a lot of international experience. And I think we're at the stage where maybe we can't spend an awful lot on a goalkeeper who's not going to play. And so they've just gone for someone reliable just for the emergencies in case we need them. For me, I'm concerned because obviously Pickford, he's still prone to his mistakes. I mean, he was good in the second half of the season, but you know, that could feasibly happen again. And if that does happen, is Begovic good enough? For me, I think he probably is good enough to play a few games a season, as long as we're not relying on him. And what I like about Begovic is he's 6'6". You know, he's a contrasting style of goalkeeper to Pickford. He's absolutely huge. You know, his arm reach is going to be huge. And you know, you're talking about a player there who would be suitable to play in a low block, David. And if we are penned in our own defence and trying to counter-attack teams, and we've got our tall Mina and Keane, you know, you've got an even taller goalkeeper behind him who can come and claim the crosses for corners and with good handling. And he's a good shot stopper from distance, which I'm not so sure Pickford is. He's very good at reacting at close range, but you know, from distance he gets beat so often. So I think Begovic is actually a really good player on a free transfer as well. He'll probably be on around 50 grand a week, so not an awful salary for him as well.
Who's Begovic?
I've got Jasmine next to me chipping in, asking me who Begovic is. He's a Premier League. Begovic. He's a Premier League goalkeeper.
I mean, maybe what he will do is since he offers completely different skill sets to Pickford, he might help to actually help Pickford to develop in terms of his ability to come for crosses and domineer his box.
We might get more viewers if we just leave Jasmine on the...
Get rid of the gag. Listen, Dave.
You're gonna have to leave.
Sorry, Dave.
What's next, Andy Carroll? That's a good point. Do you think, you know, where do we draw the line with lowering our standards and expectations?
He's on a free now. He's on a free.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if saying I'd rather Newcastle attack. Dave's sending his crying face. It was tongue in cheek. He's only messing, you know. He watches all our videos, don't you, Dave? Dave, give us a thumbs up.
Dave can give us an apology.
Dave, give us a thumbs up. Dave, sorry, just coming back to you, not Dave and the viewer. Begovic, are you happy with him? If I offered you Olsen, he's giving us a thumbs up. Are you happy with Olsen? Or are you happy with Begovic? I mean, is there much between them?
I mean, I think I would have preferred Olsen just because he's integrated in the squad. He seemed to enjoy being at Everton. But I think there's an aspect of the fact Pickford's had such good form recently that whoever's number 2 knows they're not going to play. And if Olsen's probably had a year of waiting around, then maybe he won't want to come back and do that. Maybe Begovic, after he's had a year playing for Bournemouth, will now be prepared to sit and not sort of shout if he's not playing. He's a decent option, isn't he? If he has to play a few games,
he's a leader as well, David.
It's for me. It's all the wages. If the wages are not too bad for all 3 of these players, I'm talking less than 50k. Then I'll be content with it. But if they're 100 grand wages, like we've been paying like stupid money, then there's no point.
Steve Woods joined. I don't know whether he's just come on the video now. Steve, give us a thumbs up, like the video, please, on Facebook. He's saying Begovic is better than Olsen. So I'd be intrigued to know what the general consensus is with that. And there's a couple of comments on the same theme just come in now on Facebook. Steve is saying get rid of Richarlison while he's worth the money. And this sentiment is reinforced by Kevin Brace, who's saying, I'd sell Richarlison. He's done nothing last season apart from sulking. And we're moving off topic and we're close to wrapping up the video, but it's a good question. We're starting the season potentially without Richarlison, without Calvert-Lewin, maybe without Dean and without Pickford. You're talking about Richarlison is now the time to cash in on him while he's got a long contract and he's just come off the back of a good tournament for Brazil. Or do we persist with him? Because really we can't afford another season like last where he was very ineffective for I'd say 80% of the games.
Look, I don't know if anyone would want him right now. I don't think anyone's still.
Stop saying.
They've muted me. I think you've muted me. I don't think people are coming in for Richarlison. As you've just said, he had a really poor season. He never set the world alight. The only club I could really see that would be desperate would be Real Madrid, and that would be Ancelotti, saying let's get him in.
Could you not go for Inter Milan, AC Milan?
Inter Milan are in all sorts of financial ruin. I just don't see anyone coming in and spending 50-60 million on him when he's been so poor the last year. I don't think he's been that exceptional at the Copa America either, from what I saw.
Yeah, he relied on the goals.
Yeah, he didn't really score that much. His end product is dropped recently, hasn't it? But I kind of do agree with the others. If you could get a decent amount of money for him, then maybe you do sell him because he has looked a different player the last year. And I said this about 2 months ago. I think you said you didn't want to sell him, didn't you?
This is funny from Dave West, and he's saying he had a titty lip on because Ancelotti would let him go to the Olympics, and you think Rafa's then come in and said he can go. Yeah. To keep him happy.
Yeah, but he's also said that when he comes back, he's got to hit the ground running, hasn't he? And if he doesn't, then we're going to struggle, aren't we? Because our points total will hinge on the key players performing well.
I know there's still 18 of you watching. Thanks for sticking with us. It's been a really good video. Really enjoyed it. And we're going to wrap up shortly. So if there's any comments you want to make them now, and any questions, we'll bring them onto the video. If not, we'll just leave with this comment from Steve, who's saying, "Would you keep Keane Moyes?"
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
No, I wouldn't keep him if I could sell him for a good amount of money and reinforce the squad with a high quality winger. But now this whole situation's changed, and now it just looks like everything's a total mess, really. I don't know what to say, really, because at the moment it looks like we're going to have to keep him. It looks like nobody's going to pay for him. From what I've heard, PSG don't want to pay. So
yeah, they've said they're basically
going to be stuck with an unhappy Moise Kean, and it also means we haven't got that 50-40 million to invest into those key positions we need. Let's do hope we bring in this right back, whether it's Dumfries or someone of a similar quality, because that is probably a number 1 or number 2 position to strengthen. And after that, let's see what we get.
For me, I mean, I think if the option to sell him for 40 or 50 million is there, I'd say I would take the money. But based on the standard of the players we're bringing in, I think it's a no-go, and I think we need to keep him and give him another opportunity. And it's his place to lose. Dave, thanks for joining. I believe Love Island is on in 2 minutes, so I think we're going to take that initiative as well. We've been on for a little while. We're going to be on the next video shortly. You know, obviously we're doing our regular videos, and we will react to any news coming through. Lewis saying just before we go, Townsend, Graham, Begovic for 1.5 million is cracking business. Slightly underwhelming, but definitely strengthened squad. Make your mind up, Lewis. Is it cracking business or is it slightly underwhelming? You know, financially it is cracking business, I suppose, but you're underwhelmed about the names. I think that is generally the consensus. Everyone's a little bit underwhelmed, and but it probably does strengthen the squad compared to what we've had. But yeah, it's time to go, Lewis. Thanks for watching. You can, if you've only just joined us, you can rewatch the video from the start, and there's some really good content there. And we'll see you all soon. Dave, thanks. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.